2 years you'll be finding a lover, and in 10 I'll just be finding my feet. And I see wedding bands, sonograms in your life in times, but all I see for me is gray. Was I really made for that stable life though? Stable life though. I can't go on with that stable life though. Stable life though. No matter how hard I try, I never pictured like how do you see your stable life?
Hi! Welcome to our LCA AAPI Teen Podcast series called One Voices.
Today, for our first podcast, we'll be introducing ourselves, sharing a bit about us, our connection to the Westchester community, and our personal reasons for joining the podcast. We hope you enjoy.
Hi, I'm Elle. I'm a 14-year-old bisexual Vietnamese American, and I was adopted when I was 6 months old by a white family. I'm not sure what I identify as generationally because I was adopted. I have a mom, dad, an older brother, and a dog. I'm one of those people that say they love nature but would rather sit inside and read a good book. A conflicting struggle I have is not feeling Asian enough or cultural enough, or not feeling white enough. I'm not out to my parents yet, and I'm hoping to create and have a safe space for all of us here. I want to be here for anyone listening to this and feels the same way. I hope everyone facing similar problems or conflicts will be able to listen to our stories and feel validated.
Hey, I'm Neo. I'm Chinese American. Both my parents are Chinese, and I'm a second generation Chinese American, so I was born in the US. I identify as bisexual, and one of my biggest hobbies is playing video games and just living on the internet. A big reason why I came here was because I really feel like there aren't many places where I get to be myself. You know, I'm not out to my parents or many of my peers at school. So I really see this as just a place where I can be myself. And I also want this podcast to be an opportunity for you as a listener to feel accepted and to feel as though you don't have to hide who you are when you're listening to this podcast, even if you're not actually interacting with us.
Hi, my name is Julie. I'm Indian Asian. I'm 14 years old and I'm 9th grade. I'm second generation Asian. I was born in Westchester County and I've lived here for my whole entire life. I am fully Indian. Both of my parents are Indian. And I have an Indian sister, and I've also been to India numerous amount of times, and I've grown up with the culture all around me. The reason I wanted to join this podcast was to bring awareness to Asian American stereotypes, because as an Asian, I've been put under a lot of stereotypes such as good at math or naturally smart, and I wanted to get rid of those stereotypes and wanted to make it apparent that everybody is their own person, and they shouldn't be obligated to be a certain stereotype. I also wanted to share my stories because I do like talking a lot, and I love to dance, I love to play tennis, I play the viola, not the violin, but most of my Asian friends do play the violin. I am good at math, but there is a big difference between being good at math and liking it, and yeah, that's all about me.
Hi, I'm Becky. I'm a 14-year-old Filipino American. I'm biracial and I'm second generation. My mom immigrated from the Philippines in the 7th grade, and my dad is an Anglo-Saxon American. A story that's really a big part of my identity is when I first saw Olivia Rodrigo on Disney Channel, and I remember it was a segment that popped up about her and her talking about her heritage, and I remember the realization of I'd finally found someone like myself, and it was so cool to see that representation. And I joined this program to kind of have a community that I never had growing up and learn more about my history.
Hi, I'm Megan. I use she, her pronouns. And I am South Asian. My parents are Indian and I identify as Indian American, and I'm bisexual. Yes, I have never come out to my parents, and I don't know of a lot of South Asian queer people, so I want to use this podcast and also connect with other people about being a part of the LGBTQ community as a person of color and as an Asian American. I think it's important for young people to see that. And also, I'm a senior in high school. I'm 18, which is crazy. I also went through the college process as someone who's not interested in STEM. Shocking. And I really love poetry and English and history. And maybe someone can listen to this and be like, yeah, I can do that too. I can be a writer. Because, yes, you can.
Hey, it's Ash, and I'm in sophomore year. A little bit about me, I'm a second generation Chinese American. Basically, I was born in the U.S. My parents both immigrated to the U.S., but they are now U.S. citizens. I have a younger brother, and I grew up in Westchester County. I am also a figure skater, and I play the viola and piano.
Hi, I'm May. I'm 14 years old, and I'm turning 15 this year, and I'm a freshman. I am half Chinese and half white, and I am a second-generation immigrant. Both my parents are immigrants. My mother immigrated from China, and my father immigrated from Croatia, which is a small European country. They both came to the U.S. as international students, where they met, married, and had me and my younger brother. I now love to play volleyball, violin, and one day I aspire to successfully grow plants that won't die. As a biracial American, I often feel like I don't really belong. I'm too Asian to some white people, or I'm too white to some Asian people. And I really want to give a voice to this struggle for me and other biracial Asian Americans, or just generally biracial Americans, or any Asian Americans that get called things like whitewashed or so on. And I also want to share about my own experiences, history, and learn more about Asian American history.
Hi, this is John, a junior. My first experience in America began as my family moved to Westchester about 6 years ago in 2016, and it marked a significant turning point in my life. There are many transitions that took place as I grew up as a mentally and culturally Korean living in America, since I hadn't felt the sense of belonging to this land until these recent years. Who am I? I'm here to express who I am, but I'm pretty sure majority of us, including myself, still struggle to find an answer. I find that our identities are often how others view ourselves. I am 1.5 generation Korean American, and lots of people are jealous how I'm perfectly bilingual. In their perspective, I retain benefits from both nationalities, and that is true. Though, becoming fluent in English and assimilating to the American culture was not easy, and I still encounter some cultural differences with it. I've always been a child who loves talking. When I first landed to JFK, though I had to learn and speak English to express my thoughts. I think it's since then I started talking to myself. And in 2018, I began writing a journal, mostly written in Korean but rarely in English. My journal has been the only place where I could fully tell my own story. I think writing a journal was an innovation in my life, as I tried different ways to write, such as writing a poem, answering personal philosophical questions, analyzing the behaviors of mine and others. In fact, COVID crisis has been a turning point in my life, perhaps for anyone worldwide. Taking fully remote courses and waking up right before the first class starts, I was able to focus solely on my thoughts and emotions and recognize what internal me was speaking. I believe there are many of us who unconsciously conform to the social norm, and I used to be swayed by what others were talking to me, partly because of my lack of English ability. Though, after realizing that I had to make my voice, and that is actually not difficult to do so, I decided to share my personal stories and thoughts on current world through this teen podcast program. Identity is so important because I believe changing society starts by changing yourself. And now I'm so eager to connect with our peers and our attentive adults, as well as Asian Americans, or even those with other ethnicities, since identity issues are not limited but universal. Thank you for listening to our introductory podcast about our individual Asian identities, and please stay tuned as we dig deeper to Asian American history and concerns we share as a community. See you at the next recording. Thank you.